Hello, I'm Jackie and welcome to our Zen Mama Tribe pregnancy yoga at home. So it would be really nice if you could follow our practice today. We're going to have a lovely practice all circled around pelvic girdle pain. So Vicky is here and she's going to be helping us out, doing some demonstrations with me this week as we focus around that area of PGP. So most women experience some kind of pelvic girdle pain, PGP, around their pregnancy. Not everybody, but there's lots of different reasons and causes for pelvic girdle pain. One of the most significant causes obviously is the amount of relaxin that you have in your body. So the hormone relaxin gets everywhere inside your body, and obviously it gets into your bone as well. So the pelvis, which is normally the kind of powerhouse of your whole skeleton, is now not as firm as it was. The bone has become a little bit more spongy, it has a bit more give in it. So that's probably not ideal when you're carrying a baby around, although obviously it is going to be ideal for later on when you're birthing, which is the main reason why that relaxin is there, so the pubic region can spread and obviously you can birth your baby. But what it does mean during pregnancy is that little bit more give in the pelvis, well, that can cause us to some aches and pains. And what the pelvis does is it kind of calls on the abdominal muscles, but the abdominal muscles obviously at the moment are separating, so they're feeling quite weak as well. So then what happens is we get into this issue with what we call the QLs. So these are the muscles that are in between the pelvis and the rib cage here. There's 4 of the muscles, the QLs, quadratus lumborums, and they are the muscles that are responsible for this action here. So when you are in normal life, we normally have a little bit of curvature to the spine, and this is very normal, and obviously we can cope and our backs can cope. When we're pregnant, the weight of the baby moving forwards and the fact that the pelvis now has a little bit more give in it means that the abdominal muscles are now opening. It means that these QL muscles here, they can start to arch more than normal, and you can find that the pelvis can start to stick out a little bit, and this can cause the muscles of the QLs to over contract, and it is this pregnancy arch kind of position that can definitely lead to pelvic girdle pain. There are some other reasons why we might experience pelvic girdle pain, maybe misalignments of the hips, other issues to do with the psoas or the piriformis. But we're going to focus today on this issue of the QLs and pelvic girdle pain. And the way that we're going to therefore really focus on helping our backs during our time in pregnancy is to help relieve this pregnancy yoga arch. So that's what we're going to focus on today in our 15 or so minute practice. So first of all, we are just going to be aware of this in our kind of sitting posture. So I'm going to give Vicky a block because it's quite good for her pelvis to be a little bit higher than normal. If Victoria had any SPD or PSD, which is pains here and here, then I wouldn't want her legs to be wide open. I would want to keep them here, and I would in child's pose not come wider with the knees than here, and maybe when we're in sitting posture she would use the block and kneel this way round. But Vicky doesn't have any SPD, so we're going to ask her to sit on the block this way round. Do you want to put that under there, Vic? Mm-hmm. Good, I'll put this here too. So if you have a block at home, it's a nice idea, or you can just get one very easily online, or you can use perhaps something else, a cushion or something like that, just to prop you up. What I want you to be aware of is this pelvis and whether or not it's tilting. So just be aware and just put your hand onto the kind of back, onto the midpoint of your back, the lower back, and just give it a little bit of a rub with the back of your hand, and just be aware of where your arch is. So if you are finding that your pelvis is really reaching forwards and tilting in this direction, then that is possible that you're overstretching those QLs. So what we want to do is what we're going to call neutralize the pelvis. So take your pelvis and just really neutralize it. It's as if you can think of the pelvis as like an egg cup, and then our body's just sitting in that egg cup. And then when you feel your back, I want you to be aware that your back is a little bit straighter than it normally would be. So your back's just that little bit flatter. We might, if you like, call that puffing up the back of the waist or tilting the tailbone under a little bit to make sure that we've got this nice posture in the seated position. So now we're here and now we've arrived. We're just going to have a couple of breaths just to be mindful of this. And we're going to breathe into this whole area. We're going to focus on the pelvis today. So just take a moment before we come on to our Asana practice to just be aware of that idea of the flatter back. Be aware of the idea of just tilting the pelvis under a little bit from now on in your pregnancy to help your pelvic girdle. And I want you just to focus now on around the kind of belly area, around the sides of the belly and around into the back, into those kind of pelvic wings. And just see if you can breathe into the whole of that area. And as you breathe out, just be aware and just soften that area a little. Good. Really be aware and breathe into the whole of that pelvic region. And then just soften a little bit as you breathe out. Good. Let's just do one more breath, being mindful of this area, really breathing into it. And softening as you breathe out. Good. All right, so we're going to continue to think about this idea of just tilting the pelvis. So we're going to slowly and carefully come off our blocks and we're going to come onto all fours in function. So just take the block away now, off your mat. And we're going to come into our nice all fours position. So if we are got a nice hands underneath our shoulders, knees underneath our pelvis. And then first of all, we're just going to be literally mindful of this nice flat back. So yeah, make sure those hands are nicely placed, the fingers are nice and wide, the shoulders are well plugged in. But here, what we're being aware of is that the pelvis is not tilting this way. So we've got this arch. We're not going to do that. We don't want to over-contract those muscles that are already probably in some discomfort. So we're tilting the pelvis under a little bit. Look at that. And then coming to this nice flat back. Good, and we're just going to practice a couple of breaths here. So nice deep breaths into the belly, into the abdomen, into the back of the pelvic wings. Good. And then as you breathe out, you can just hug your baby towards you a little bit. Good. Couple more. Breathing into the belly, the sides of the belly, into those pelvic wings. And as you breathe out, just hugging your baby towards you. Good, keep going. So this kind of hugging your baby towards you breath, this breath is really good for switching on, kind of stabilizing muscles in the pelvis. And we do have them there, and they're meant for just this reason. The pelvic floor has all kinds of a wonderful network of muscle. And when we switch on our very deep, stabilizing core muscles, we are helping our backs in our pregnancy. So this breathing is a really good idea. Good, let's just do one more here. Good, and we're going to do a little tilt now into cat. But I want you to be mindful of the pelvis, all right? So we're not focusing so much on the upper back, just on the lower back. So take a deep breath in. And then as you breathe out, just tilt the pelvis under. Good. Keep the belly soft now. And you can just push into the hands a little bit and come to that arch in the back. But really being aware of that lower back region. Stay there. And just do a couple of nice soft breaths in and out. Again, focusing on that lower mid back. Good. As you breathe in this time, we're going to come to flat back. So we never come to the opposite cow position when we're doing pregnancy yoga because it's going to over contract those QLs, which we just don't want. So have a stabilizing breath here. And then as you breathe out, here we go again, just tilting under. Good, stay here for a breath or two. Good, really enjoy it.
And then this time as you breathe in, we're taking that pelvis back to the neutral position. Good, well done. This time with our breath. So as you breathe out, tilt the pelvis. As you breathe in, back to all fours. Good, breathe out, tilting the pelvis. Breathing in, all fours. Good, tilt again. Good, one last time. Good, so now we're going to come down onto our forearms. And we're just going to sway our hips from side to side. So remember, I call this shaking your maraca. And you can shake your maraca up on all fours or down on your forearms, standing, wherever feels good. But just give it a nice sway from side to side. So this is really good for pelvic girdle pain, because what you're doing is moving the whole of the pelvis and therefore increasing any blood flow. And when you increase the blood flow, then you're increasing all the lovely nutrients and oxygen around that region. And that means that you're going to be keeping this region healthier. More movement means that we're going to have less stiffness. So this really great shaking of the pear tree or the maraca from side to side feels really good. Good, all right. So we're going to come back up onto all fours. And just do some nice mindful movements again with the pelvis. So this time as you breathe out, you're going to tuck the pelvis under as we were doing before with cat. And then you're going to take your pelvis over to the right. And then come to flat back. And then over to the left. And then tilt under. So we've got like a circle going on. So over to the right. Flat back. To the left. And tilting under. Good. So we've got this nice circle happening now. Really tilt under. Let your breath join in. Breathing in as you come to flat back. Breathing out as you tilt under. Good. And then when you get down, we're going to go around in the other direction. Good, one more. Good, and coming to nice flat back. Brilliant, bring the knees together and you're just going to walk the hands back, chest lifted, shoulders relaxed. Okay, good. So we're going to come up to standing and we're going to work again with the idea of tucking the tailbone under. So let's come to tabletop, tuck the toes under, remember come up safely, rocking forwards, and then as you rock back, just walk the hands back, climb them up the legs, and just come to a nice stand, chest lifted, shoulders relaxed. Amazing, good. All right, so we're going to do what we would call, in yoga, we might call it roll the camel, and it's again a really lovely exercise or movement for this flat back. So Vicky's going to stay where she is. I'm going to come forwards onto the mat here. We're going to put our hands onto our hips. Our chest is lifted, our shoulders are relaxed. Our feet are maybe a little bit wider than hip distance apart, just a little bit. And what we're going to do is we breathe out, is we're going to imagine that we're kind of sitting on something behind us. Good. And then we're going to tilt the tailbone under, push into the feet and up. Good, so breathe out as if you're sitting on something behind you, tilt under, pushing up. Good, so really enjoy the movement of the rolling of the camel. Well done. Let's just do a couple more. Good. And if you are at work or at home, or you're just out and your pelvis is starting to feel discomfort, then you might not be in a position where you can just roll your camel in that way, but you might well be able to just do some pelvic tilts. So just place the back of your hand onto your pelvis, the front here. Check to make sure your posture is good. We want this nice flat back, remember, as opposed to the pregnancy arch. So just make sure that your pelvis is tilted into that nice neutral. Push through your feet. Your back is nice and long, top of the head towards the sky or the ceiling. Good. And then all we're going to do this time is literally just tilt the pelvis under by tucking the knees under, and then as you breathe in, coming back to neutral. Good, just tilting, tucking, coming back to neutral. So if you have pelvic girdle pain and you self-refer to a physio, then this will be the type of exercises that they ask for you to do, just tilting under. And if you want to, obviously you could hold on to something in front of you. It could be a wall or a chair or a desk, table, and just do these nice pelvic tilts. Good, let's have a couple more. Great. Now to finish off this short practice, we're just going to come back to the kneeling position. And we're just going to do a couple of pelvic floor exercises. So the pelvic floor is an integrated mesh of ligaments and muscles. Obviously it goes from the front to the back of the pelvic floor, and it's kind of like a inverted hammock, and there's like a bowl-like network around it. If we can work the pelvic floor, not only are we helping ourselves obviously after birthing, but we're also going to be helping ourselves now to switch on those stabilizing muscles deep inside that pelvis and the core, which is going to help support your back. So it's a really good idea to just get started. So if you can imagine that here's your pelvic floor, your perineum, from the front to the back of the pelvic floor, that's where the front hole is, that's where the back hole is. What we're going to do is imagine there's like a drawstring, and we're going to bring that drawstring together and close it like this, as much as possible. And then we're going to come back to here. All right, now, if you can see when you do that, what's going to happen when you drawstring is that you're going to get this. You're not going to see it so much if you're pregnant, yeah, but you can possibly see here just where the whole of my network as I'm drawstringing and then lifting up the pelvic floor, all my muscles and everything are just making a nice movement. And if we can work those muscles and really stabilize the whole of this region in that way, it's going to be super helpful. All right, so we're just going to practice a few now. So you can just look down at the floor or gaze in front of you is absolutely fine. We're just going to take a deep breath in. And then as you breathe out, imagine that your pelvic floor is like a drawstring. Bring it together and then lift. Keep it lifted and see if you can breathe in and out of your chest 2 or 3 times. Keep it lifted. So it's safe to lift your pelvic floor at any time during pregnancy. Maybe towards the end of your pregnancy, it might be a good idea just to lift to 50% or 75%, because we don't want to build Fort Knox in there right now, but it's still really good to do these pelvic floor exercises. Good, this time as you breathe out, we're going to slowly release the pelvic floor back down to neutral. Good, take a resting breath here. Good, we're going to take a deep breath in. And as we breathe out, that drawstring is going to come together around the pelvic floor and you're going to lift. Good. Breathe in and out 2 or 3 times. Keep the pelvic floor lifted. If you're in trimester 2, then definitely you want to lift it 100% so that you get as much stability around that area as possible. Good, and then we're going to soften it back down, see if you can control it. It's great to keep that control all the way down, back to neutral. Good, we're going to do it one last time. Take a resting breath. Good. Breathe in at neutral. And as you breathe out, bring that drawstring together and lift the pelvic floor. Breathe in and out of the chest 2 to 3 times, keeping it lifted. Good. And next time you breathe out, soften and control it back down to neutral. Good. Well done. So that is our very short sequence today for our pelvic girdle pain. If you'd like to do the longer practice, and obviously come over and join us on the Zen Mama Yoga Tribe Yoga at Home on Vimeo, and then you can get the full practice for about 45 minutes and really enjoy that practice with lots of other ideas and asana, and with a nice long shavasana at the end as well. We hope to see you there, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching.